Prepare-se para ver cenas fortes, de uma realidade facilmente comprovada quando se conhece os fatos. Se você tinha dúvidas ou nunca olhou para o céu e viu os aviões passando e despejando uma trilha de fumaça, ou ainda acha que isso é só uma trilha de condensação de gases, veja este vídeo e nunca mais tenha dúvidas sobre o que está acontecendo.
Primeiro, entenda como eles vendem a necessidade para o mundo.
It's called climate modification, or geoengineering, and it's considered by some as a viable but drastic way to combat global warming. What exactly is it?
These options range from a $4 trillion solar umbrella made up of 15 trillion little mirrors to reflect sunlight away from Earth and lower the planet's temperature, to a $400 million a year man-made volcano that shoots massive amounts of sulfur up into the atmosphere to block sunlight and cool the planet down.
But will they work? Yes, these geoengineering ideas will work, and some scientists believe despite the expense we should try them. But most agree that it just treats the symptom and is not a cure, because basically no one knows exactly what will happen as a result.
The point is to mess with Mother Nature less, not more.
Espalham esta mentira em vários lugares do mundo.
Selon certains experts, le meilleur moyen de contre-attaquer aujourd'hui consiste à refroidir artificiellement notre planète. Cela s'appelle le geoengineering. Le projet le plus prometteur cherche à assombrir l'atmosphère avec du soufre, un gaz qui bloque les rayons du soleil.
Estão despejando diariamente toneladas de outros produtos tóxicos no planeta.
We could theoretically block out a small proportion of incoming sunlight.
Adding aerosols to the upper atmosphere is considered relatively cheap and easy to deploy if the technology proves effective and safe.
Envoyer des particules de soufre dans la haute atmosphère, disons au-dessus de 10 km, semble être la meilleure idée pour refroidir la planète.
The idea is if you took some missiles or whatever and spread sulfate aerosol, it's the same kind of thing that comes out of a smokestack in an uncontrolled power plant that we call pollution. See, we put this into the stratosphere and it reflects away the sun's radiation and it counters the effects of carbon dioxide in the lower atmosphere causing global warming. So you counter the global warming.
It didn't take long for the world to agree. A technology existed that could stop the ice sheets from melting. It should be used. Hundreds of jets from all around the world were spraying a mist of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. The gas would form particles which would shade the Earth and temporarily cool it.
Eles anunciam que vão espalhar dióxido de sulfúrico ou enxofre para esfriar a Terra, mas não é essa a verdade. Inclusive, não existe o aquecimento global. Vamos entrar dentro de alguns anos em uma mini era glacial. Dizem que é inofensivo à saúde.
Could a strange substance found by a southwest Arkansas man be part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention. Well, tonight, KSLA News 12 investigation reporter Jeff Farrell shows us the results of testing we had done about what's in our skies.
It seemed like some mornings it was just crisscrossing the whole sky. It was just like a giant checkerboard.
Bill Nichols snapped several photos of the strange clouds from his home in Stamps, Arkansas. They begin as normal contrails from a jet engine, but do not fade away like a normal contrail. Soon after, he saw particles in the air.
You know, because we'd see it drop to the ground in a haze.
Nichols then noticed the material collecting on the ground.
This is water and stuff that I collected in bowls. I had it set out in my backyard on my dad's pickup truck.
KSLA News 12 had the sample tested at a lab. The results? A high level of barium, 6.8 parts per million. more than 3 times the toxic level set by the EPA.
Armed with these lab results about the high levels of barium found in our sample, we decided to contact the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They told us that yes, these levels are very unusual.
Barium is a hallmark of other chemtrail testing, which even attracted attention from a Los Angeles TV station. There's already no shortage of unclassified weather modification programs by the government. But those who fear chemtrails could be secret biological or chemical testing on the public point to the 1977 Senate hearings in particular, which confirmed 239 populated areas had been contaminated with biological agents between 1949 and 1969. Later, the 1994 Rockefeller Report concluded hundreds of thousands of military personnel were also subjected to secret biological experiments over the last 60 years. But could secret testing be underway yet again?
I'd rather it be something inert and benign, something that's, not causing any damage, but I'd like to know what it is.
KSLA News 12 discovered chemtrails are even mentioned by name in the initial draft of House Bill 2977 back in 2001 under the Space Preservation Act. But the military denies any such program exists. Jeff Farrell, KSLA News 12 reporting.
And it turns out until 9 years ago, the government had the right under U.S. law to conduct secret testing on the American public under specific conditions.
Now, Jeff's report mentioned high levels of barium linked to those alleged chemtrails. We wanted to find out exactly what effects barium has on the body. We spoke with Mark Ryan, the director of the Poison Control Center. Ryan tells KSLA News 12 that short-term exposure can lead to anything from stomach to chest pains. Long-term exposure causes blood pressure problems. Ryan addressed concerns by chemtrail researchers that barium could be meant to wear down a person's immune system.
Anything that causes ill effects in the body long-term, chronically, is going to affect your ability because it's constantly working on the body.
Mas eles não falaram que estavam jogando toneladas de partículas de enxofre? Para aqueles que ainda acreditam que os aviões estão deixando rastros por causa do atrito das turbinas quentes com as baixas temperaturas das altitudes elevadas, observe que o avião pousou e esqueceu de desligar a liberação do fornecimento das trilhas químicas. Você ainda acredita que são trilhas de condensação?
Aviões em ação, pulverizando o planeta. Tudo programado para cobrir o planeta todo de forma mais eficiente.
que muitos pilotos estão fazendo isso, achando que estão fazendo bem para o planeta. Mas isto não é a verdade. Informem-se, pesquisem, tirem suas próprias conclusões. Pilotos, não sejam cúmplices desse genocídio que tem acontecido em nosso planeta. Temos consciência que muitos pilotos estão fazendo esses gestos, achando que estão fazendo bem. Mas reflitam e entendam o mal que está sendo feito para a humanidade, para os seres vivos deste planeta. Não há mais tempo de nos deludirmos com falsas promessas. Mas não são todos os governantes que aceitam isso. Existem aqueles que se opõem.
A wild accusation from Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He says Western countries are causing drought in certain parts of the world, including Iran. He says they're using high-tech equipment to drain raindrops from clouds. Yes, that is what he said.
O presidente do Equador dá aviso direto.
Pero las avionetas que fumigan en la frontera ni siquiera son colombianas, son de DynCorp, una empresa de los Estados Unidos, porque es financiado por los Estados Unidos. Fumigan y para dar la vuelta se meten a nuestro territorio y siguen fumigando. Pregúntele a la gente de Orellana y Sucumbía.
¿Pero qué es interceptar, señor presidente?
Ese momento que se meta a este territorio va a tener un avión subsónico ecuatoriano obligándolo a aterrizar en nuestro territorio y será capturado.
¿Obligándolo?
Sí, señor.
Dizem que não faz mal nenhum para a humanidade, mas a verdade é que estão nos matando aos poucos e de muitas formas, com produtos químicos diferentes, segundo os interesses dos poderosos.
A mídia geralmente não mostra o que está acontecendo e, quando o faz, sofre riscos.
C'est assez exceptionnel. Ce sont en fait des nuages. On les voit très bien, toute cette ligne. Alors, ce sont les navires, figurez-vous, avec la condensation. C'est un petit peu ce qui se passe fréquemment par les avions.
Et vous voyez, les chemtrails couvrent 50%, voire 75% du ciel. Pas besoin d'être un expert pour comprendre, quand on voit ça sur l'image satellite, qu'il y a forcément un effet sur la température de surface.
A bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow, believe it or not. Military aircraft flying through the region dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic, or even metallicized paper products.
Le voile nuageux va se confirmer dans l'ouest, alors sans grandes conséquences, pas de précipitations, bonne luminosité, mais c'est vrai, le ciel ne sera plus tout bleu.
Entendam por que os hospitais não recebem investimentos. Entendam porque alguns médicos ultimamente têm diagnosticado as doenças como viroses, porque no fundo eles não sabem do que se trata. Estão acabando com nossa imunidade de várias maneiras, em todo o mundo.
The American government, the U.S. government, supports all kinds of eugenics type activities, and it's really sickening that our own government would be supporting programs and activities.
Are you talking about population control?
Yes, I am. Talking about death and illness.
So these are death dumps that they're dropping on us. Chemtrails, when I say that,
yes,
with aluminum oxide, strontium, barium,
yes,
sulfur hexafluorides, etc.
I've seen quite a bit of evidence that clearly there are programs to dump all these chemicals on us. Not quite sure what the purpose is yet.
The purpose is to kill us. In Nazi Germany they did this, and there was a Nuremberg trial. Should we not have another Nuremberg trial?
Oh, that'd be a good idea if we could find somebody to actually prosecute these people. We need to have more Americans that understand what's going on so that there can be enough of an uprising to actually do that. Certainly they're doing it, and they are actually, killing people and making them sick.
Well, it is genocide, isn't it?
Sure, absolutely.
Say the government is dumping chemicals on us to control or manipulate the weather.
And they say the unusual looking jet trails in the sky are actually chemical-laden chemtrails.
People say the government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather, leaving what you see there, and they call that a chemtrail. So when I look up there and I think are contrails, you're telling me are chemtrails.
Yes, that a contrail would be dissipated by now.
And it's interesting, Dale and Christina, this is of interest not just in this country, but European countries and frankly all over the world. A lot of folks interested in it.
Well, Dave, you mentioned that climatologists and others who study the atmosphere believe that they'd be able to surely spot any kind of signs of an ominous plot.
Chemtrails. On the internet, they are cited as proof of the government creating clouds to combat global warming.
They claim the American government, with the secret approval of the national government, is covertly using jet aircraft to spray population centres with aluminium, with barium and with strontium so as to reduce people's immunity and reduce the global population.
I'm always a little bit suspicious because the government doesn't seem that capable to do something on such a large scale.
That is not rain, that is not snow. Believe it or not, military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic or even italicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar issue, and obviously they're up there practicing. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is.
Mesmo assim, muitos meios de comunicação no exterior têm divulgado esse mal, menos aqui. E quando isso é feito, as matérias somem, inclusive do YouTube.
What happens here, military jets, some come out of Key West Air Force Base and they move off into the atmosphere and they drop mylar strips. Some could be a little wider, some are small glass fibers that are coated in aluminum. And what the Air Force does is they take their military jets and they dump these out of the aircraft, they fall into the atmosphere, and some take as much to a day to fall down.
This is inevitably military or something going on. The government, the Air Force, you see this kind of a pattern like this, you can rest assured there's something going on. They're actually little bitty magnetic and little bitty strips of, whether it's aluminum.
It's a nuisance to you and I to determine what's real and what's not, but it looks like it is a life-saving operation there from the military.
The apparent motive behind this conspiracy theory is one world government.
Order, I cannot hear.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the House that both my ministry and my colleague, the Minister of Health, who have received correspondence on this issue, that this conspiracy theory does not have an iota of truth, and that the trails observed from aircraft simply come from jet engines.
Question number 9 of order.
And I think what an appalling example it is of the new Foreign Affairs spokesperson for the Labour Party that she's spreading conspiracy theories about the United States government.
The House has heard sufficient.
Eles não querem que falemos disso, porque os governantes estão envolvidos.
Mr. John Holdren has agreed to serve as Assistant to the President for Science and Technology and Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. I look forward to his wise counsel in the years ahead.
My personal opinion is that we have to keep geoengineering on the table. We have to look at it very carefully because we might get desperate enough to want to use it.
O problema é que já estão usando. Há muitos anos eles vêm fazendo isso conosco. E você, tem olhado para o céu? Em vários lugares do mundo e com fórmulas diferentes.
هذه قدر إلهية سبحان الله نزلت الأرض الحين فأنا مستعجب صراحة.
Testes foram feitos em muitos lugares do mundo.
That's revealing 375,000 parts per million aluminum, barium at 3,090 and strontium at 345.
Yeah, that's from a lined pond.
With EPDM fish-safe pond liner. There is no chemicals, manufacturing materials at all in that pond liner that's available to the aquatic life. It's designed for that purpose. The well that feeds this pond has been tested and retested. ND, no detectable aluminum, 0. The only other place this pond can receive water is rainfall. We are located on a filtered, forested hilltop, miles and miles and miles away from any industry, highway, and so forth. After several heavy spray days, there was a film that we received formed on the surface of the water, and we tested that crust, and it was aluminum and barium. That after a year and a half's accumulation had 375,000 parts per billion of aluminum in it. It's literally toxic. We can say conclusively that what we see in the sky matches expressly what's outlined in numerous patents, and the materials on the ground match those patents. This material was not there 5 years ago. It is a recent phenomena in the quantities it's in. It has escalated in some cases 50,000% in 5 years in the case of aluminum. From our original baseline reading of 7 parts per billion, which was already high, it has escalated up to 50,000% in 5 years. And we've seen profound changes in that time.
Vamos pensar que isto está acontecendo no mundo todo, inclusive em nossos reservatórios de água. Estamos bebendo alumínio, bário, estênio, estrôncio em altíssimas quantidades, porque os filtros não conseguem retirar esses produtos tóxicos. O melhor ainda é o filtro de barro.
This is just ordinary snow water, and people are drinking this stuff when they're hiking on the mountain. And remember, government action is required at 1,000. This is 61 times over the government limit, and our hikers are drinking this poisonous water on Mount Shasta Mountain itself. Barium, 83. Strontium, 383.
So this summer, the people climbing are drinking poison.
Basically. I certainly wouldn't want to drink 61,000 micrograms per liter of aluminum.
And again, we've already seen in 5 years soil pHs in this area that have escalated 10 to 12 times, and we can prove that conclusively. Well, this is not speculation. We can prove conclusively that these metals have been in the rain. We have duplicate samples.
Bachelor of Science in Forestry, International School of Forestry at Missoula. Master's in Zoology, specialized in aquatics. 35 years with the U.S. Forest Service as a wildlife biologist. And before that, several years with the USDA Soil Conservation Service as a soil conservationist. Also have run the botany programs, range and grazing programs. And I continue that today. Right now I do a lot of master gardener consultation work.
When I started this garden back in about 2005 or so, the pH here was 5.5, 5.6.
This is the old soil survey of the county. You can look at the page right here. This is my soil right here. It's a Dietz 125, 126 here at my house. And here, the soil reaction pH should be between 4.5 and 6.0. And over there in the pure mud, it's even a little darker. It's 6.8 right there.
And what can this do to plant life and ecosystems?
Well, you haul one of these things out and you start looking at the little things that are crawling around the soil. A lot of times they aren't there anymore. The little soil arthropods that you can barely see on a microscope, you can actually see movement with this. Little tiny macroscopic, look like little moving pieces of dust. Those start to go away. They're not gone entirely, but they start to go away.
This is black oak acorns. You know, this is pieces of cedar wood. You know, come on, folks. This should be very acid, and I'm getting 10 times higher than expected. There's something really wrong.
Dr. Leonard Time, PhD in chemistry, I cross-checked with him, and he says the oxides of aluminum, barium, and strontium will drive your pH into the coastal, from an acid soil like this up into the neutral. There's no question about it.
And that's exactly
what you see happen.
I have a doctorate in inorganic chemistry from Oregon State University, in which I was working with different metals and oxidation states, and then did a postdoctorate work at Brandeis, where I was working stabilizing off oxidation states of different metals. The goal is to sort of figure out how everything fits in the dynamic equilibrium of life. I was working with Francis up in Mount Shasta, and he showed me some rainwater analyses that had to do with levels of aluminum, strontium, and barium in the atmosphere. So I feel the major toxin in these chemtrails is the aluminum. And from the levels we were looking in at Mount Shasta, this is totally unacceptable. When you get to metals and biological systems, you're no longer talking about the bulk aluminum that people think about when they're drinking from soda pop cans and that. So once it gets to the aluminum oxide stage, it just forms a plaque within your arteries and shuts down life.
Uma vez que se torna óxido de alumínio, entra nas artérias, formando placas e paralisa a vida.
When you take elements that normally aren't out in the environment and you start putting them in the environment, it raises some serious red flags. Aluminum is a very specific nasty in biological systems. It takes that site and it never lets go, and it shuts down the site, and that's it. And so as you accumulate aluminum over time, it causes major neural...
o alumínio causa danos neurológicos graves. Já temos altos índices de pessoas doentes com Alzheimer, câncer e outros.
Neurological damage because it ends up as aluminum oxide that's essentially stuck in place and can't be flushed out by normal systems.
At the core of everyone's condition, there's always some level of toxins. And aluminum is known to have cancer-causing effects. The half-life is decades. I think that we should be working on taking more of these toxins out of our environment instead of adding more toxins in. It's very concerning that if we add more toxins to our environment, that will be increasing the rates and risks of cancers. Even one patient is not worth it. So sad that they would consider putting aluminum in our environment to affect something when they could be causing so much more damage.
Wherever the material is coming from, it is there. The amount of metal falling on us cannot be disputed. Absolutely, this is not speculation. The amount of metal in the last 4 years, as I said, have increased to a degree of thousands of times, and California Air Quality Resources Board has studied the aerosols from China. These metals are not amongst them. Mike, the reason I've chosen to focus so primarily on this issue is I feel all other issues are secondary. What could be a greater priority than not being able to walk out your door and take in a breath of air without sucking up heavy metals? If our land base is being poisoned, if our waters are being toxified, what will we have left to work with? Whatever we choose to focus our time and energy on, whatever our political beliefs, that this is a common ground for all of us. We must have air that we can breathe that's not full of toxic chemicals and metals. We must have water that's not completely laden with whatever is being emitted from these aircraft. And if people stopped to consider that the atmosphere is as thin as a layer of paint on a basketball, it is an extremely thin layer that allows life to exist on this planet, to simply treat it as a physics lab and experiment with it until it is broken beyond repair is folly of unbelievable proportion. And if people understood that this sort of experimentation not only is going on, but has been going on for a very, very long time. Going back 50 years, there's been countless climate manipulation, weather modification programs that the vast majority of the public is completely unaware of. And if they think that this is not true, that certainly that somehow they would have known if it was occurring, I would ask them to look at things like Agent Orange and the things that governments do because they can. Because there's no one to stop them, because they have these huge military machines that want to control everything. And in fact, the government's own document, perhaps you may have seen, it's available to any online, is called Owning the Weather, an express goal of our government, and not just our government.
He told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest.
There is weather control techniques. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilize it as far back as the Vietnam War.
I served in the Arizona State Legislature for 12 years. I was in the House for 8 of those years and in the Senate for 4 of those years. When you see a plane fly overhead, there's a trail that leaves the end of that plane, and it goes from one horizon all the way to the other as the plane flies across, and it begins to filter out and cover more and more of the sky in kind of ripples. It widens out and fills the whole sky. I mean, how could anybody think that that was the case? And then to live and to be underneath that and know that whatever is in that is falling down upon you and upon your animals and upon the earth. And I mean, it's frightening to me. And if people don't start really waking up and facing the fact that we've got people that are doing terrible things to us, and we had better wake up and fight back now. I mean, I'm the mom of 11 kids. I've got 35 grandkids. I mean, I've got a stake in this. I care about what is going to be left for my children. I care about it, and I'm extremely worried about what is going to be left to them.
Aluminum is toxic, and we know that it's accumulative. And we know that we're getting more. So we're absorbing it in the air, we're drinking it in our water, so we are accumulating more. So the thought of more aluminum being dispersed in our environment in the way that you mentioned is very frightening to us and very disturbing to us. Those of us who have done any research on this are really quite concerned that we are ill-informed about this issue, and mostly that it's being done. Aluminum is toxic. We know that it is. We can debate as to the amount of toxicity that is going to be disturbing the body, but as far as really accepting the fact that it's accumulative, it's synergistic, then we have to conclude that it's not a good idea to put it in our atmosphere, especially when we know we're getting increased amounts, and especially since we know that the scientific communities around the world are pointing a finger at the heavy metal toxicities, at the toxicities that we're absorbing in the day-to-day food that we eat and the air that we breathe.
The concern is off the charts about why is this happening? Why is this being allowed to be sprayed continually all over the United States, all over the world? Who is paying for this? I mean, the incidence of Alzheimer's has just skyrocketed, which evidently has to do with an accumulation of aluminum in the brain cells. I mean, I think almost every family has been touched by a member as they get older having Alzheimer's. And it's a horrible disease. And to say that, well, this just came because people drank soda pop out of aluminum cans, you know, when my father passed away with Alzheimer's and he didn't ever drink soda pop, you know, that explanation doesn't ring true with me. And so I'm wondering, how much did this chemtrail spraying back in the Illinois area affect him?
Aluminum and fine metal is an accelerant.
A friend who's a firefighter up in Pine, Arizona for 20 or 30 years says that the wildfires now that they're fighting are way beyond anything they've seen before in intensity. And when you look at the air samples and you see the fine particles of aluminum, which is very flammable, and magnesium settling on the trees, this is causing unprecedented savage wildfire.
But if you look at this, you can see these are parts per million. They sent this to me, and I just found this to be extremely interesting because we should have like 2 parts per million of aluminum in our air. And this is saying that there's 39,000 parts of aluminum. That's astronomical. Barium is high. I mean, these are way off the charts of what people should be breathing or what's coming down on them. And, you know, if people wonder why their health is deteriorating, why they're having to go to emergency rooms, why they can't breathe, you know, why they're getting Alzheimer's, this has been planned. We have elites, I don't know what you want to call them, one worlders, Illuminati, I don't, whatever you want to call them. But with these people that don't care about the average person. They only care about themselves, their greed, their power, and if they eliminate, you know, 2/3, 3/4 of us from the planet, so much for the better for them, because then they don't have so many people to have to herd around and worry about. So this is a lot what this is about, and this is very, very alarming and scary. I mean, where is this stuff coming from, and why? Why is this kind of stuff being put out there? You know, I've heard different explanations about, oh, we need to cool the planet, all this and that. But if people are up there trying to cool the planet, why do they need all this kind of stuff in it? The explanations just never have really rang very true.
And as I'm setting up the equipment, she looked at me, she said, all these trees here are dying. And I said, what? She says, all these trees in here are dying. So I thought, well, I'm going to test for aluminum, because that's one of the key things in the programs that we're talking about. and titanium. And I took some of this bark sample and tested it, and it came back positive with aluminum and titanium. Then I started traveling around California, noticing the same thing. In Lake Tahoe, there was a lot of the same type of bark, all through Sacramento area and Davis. Just about everywhere I went, I was noticing this silver white bark. What I think is happening is these chemicals are getting down and destroying the roots. And then as they come up, they're going out into the bark.
Those two right there are the ones that are just, it just hurts so bad to see these two, because look how old and big they are. We probably lost 40 trees right here on our 10 acres. Every week, every other weekend, we'd see another tree that was beginning to die. And I mean, it's just so sad, we just cry. And to think that that might have something to do with it, along with their other explanations, would really, really frost me. Every time you lose a tree, you know, it's not good, it's just sad. And there's another one over here in this little group of trees here. Don't you feel better when you stand up and fight than if you crawl down in a little hole and go to sleep? You know, I mean, my gosh, people, your families are out there, children are out there, your grandchildren. I mean, you've got to do something to help.
Eles têm pulverizado essas substâncias em nossos campos, as quais são, por sua vez, incorporadas à nossa alimentação.
Il ne peut y avoir d'agriculture pérenne que si on est sur des sols vivants. Le sol abrite 80% de la biomasse vivante. Donc si vous tuez, on en a tué 90%, c'est qu'on est en train de tuer tout ce qui est à la source de la vie. C'est quand même les microbes qui nourrissent nos plantes, qui font que nos plantes sont saines, sont nutritifs pour nous. Alors que maintenant, les gens, enfin, nous sommes quand même dans la société la plus confortable de l'histoire de l'humanité et nos dépenses de sécurité sociale augmentent de 6% par an. Il y a quand même des questions à se poser, quoi. Nous avons en ce moment, depuis 20 ans, nous traversons les années les plus sèches depuis 3000 ans dans l'histoire de l'Europe. Et les écologistes, à l'heure actuelle, se posent la question de savoir à quel moment c'est l'humanité qui commencera à s'écrouler. C'est-à-dire, pour le moment, on a détruit 90% de notre biodiversité. En Europe, ça va encore pour nous. Donc les écologistes disent, est-ce que c'est à 95% que le système va lâcher? Est-ce que c'est... On ne sait pas. La catastrophe du Crétacé est ridicule en comparaison de ce qui se passe en ce moment. Mais ça meurt, puis les gens attendent, disent, peut-être qu'un jour on va voir quand ça va péter, quoi.
Atualmente são os jatos comerciais que estão também realizando a pulverização, mas não só de produtos químicos que foram identificados.
Al principio una especie de estelas en el cielo y de repente empezaron a caer, ahí lo tenemos.
Sí, pero hay un montón de hebras, ¿eh?
Como si fueran hilos. Él nos decía que era como pegajoso, gelatinoso incluso, que se podían estirar, alargar, mira, ahí vemos cómo cae, que se alargaban de hasta 15 o 20 metros, tú fíjate.
Como gigantescas
ahí las tenemos.
Telarañas, como ha ocurrido en alguna ocasión.
Y en principio pensaron que podía ser una tela de araña y cogieron una muestra. Fíjate que nuestros espectadores se convierten ya en auténticos investigadores.
Totalmente, pero fíjate lo que estamos viendo.
Mira, además nos decía que es que caían por todo, por tejados, por los semáforos, por las ventanas. Ahí está, en los propios semáforos vemos cómo caen las hebras. Bueno, pues la llevan a la universidad y en la universidad la analizan al microscopio. Y esas imágenes, incluso de los análisis microscópicos, nos las envían.
Bueno, vaya trabajo que han hecho.
Porque esto, aunque parezcan telas de araña gigantescas, que se estiran muchísimo, 15-20 metros, nos decía, pues no lo son.
Fíjate.
Los análisis decían que no era nada de eso. Y por el momento no sabemos qué pueden ser.
Hay alguna imagen incluso del espectrograma. Ha ocurrido en muchas ocasiones, estas lluvias de cabellos de ángel, y de todo eso vamos a hablar. Bueno, esto me parece tan interesante, tan raro, tan físico, que hay que ponerse en contacto con este investigador y desde luego saber algo más. Hay que saber algo más, sobre todo si se conservan todavía las muestras, que puede ser muy interesante conocer el estado actual.
Que pedían, mira, ahí están recogiendo las muestras, los hilos. Pedían nuestra ayuda porque, claro, dice que ellos ya no tienen más medios, ni físicos ni económicos, para que alguien les pueda dar una solución. Y nosotros, que tenemos contacto con muchos laboratorios, pues tal vez si siguen conservando alguna muestra la podamos analizar.
¿Qué les parece a ustedes el aspecto, desde luego, de tipo tela de araña, ¿no? Pero muy largas y muy elásticas. No podemos poner ni quitar nada. Nosotros no sabemos nada. Hemos recibido el material. Vamos a investigar y esto, desde luego, viene que ni al pelo. Fíjate, es que algunos parecen casi entidades vivas, ¿no? Una gran lombriz o algo así. En fin, una especie de rocío condensado. ¿Qué demonios es esto?
Dans la région Midi-Pyrénées, précisément à Grappintour, en pleine campagne, ces fils sont tombés. Ils tombent du ciel comme par magie. Et n'aimons pas rester ignorants parce que les recherches sur Internet ou quand on va demander à des laboratoires, etc., ça nous n'apporte aucune réponse. Soit on se fait jeter, soit on nous dit gentiment que ils ne savent pas, c'est pas grave et qu'ils ne savent pas. Donc on se trouve face à quelque chose qui a l'air vivant.
As abelhas estão morrendo em todo o mundo.
Onde estão nossas abelhas? Vários animais estão morrendo. Vejam o que também acontece no Brasil.
Fenômeno estranho gravado na Bacia de Campos, Rio de Janeiro. E a trilha de condensação?
And all of us have a duty to stand up and speak out about it. Why is the water being contaminated? Why is the soil being contaminated? Why are aluminum-related diseases going up? And it's affecting all of us, and thus we all have the duty to stand up and speak out and get educated and stop this. For our own sake, for our children's sake, it is a crucial moment in history right now. As human beings, we need to decide whether to live on our knees while being sprayed and poisoned every day, while being under a continual threat, or whether we are going to stand up and live as free human beings and seek truth, justice, peace, and freedom for all of God's children.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Doenças causadas por chemtrails, problemas respiratórios e angústia respiratória, fadiga crônica, cefaleias crônicas e alergias, fibromialgia e dor crônica, problemas mentais e emocionais, decadência do sistema imunológico, misterioso e debilitante problema de saúde sem explicação, além de grandes mudanças internas tóxicas no organismo, gerando problemas crônicos sem explicação médica plausível.
Não podemos mais ignorar o que acontece com o planeta. Estão nos matando aos poucos, de várias formas diferentes. Agora, cada um que não entendia isto como uma verdade, pôde entender através de provas o que está acontecendo à nossa volta. Existem paliativos para diminuir o mal que nos fazem. Pesquisem, se informem. Na internet circulam um aparelho chamado Cloudbusters, que é uma forma de sugar as trilhas químicas. Verifiquem. Quando vocês virem uma trilha química, bebam muita água, de preferência de filtro de barro. A água irá diluir os poluentes no corpo. Procurem beber no mínimo 3 litros de água por dia. Mesmo sendo uma rotina que foge ao normal, façam.
Não é mais o momento de lamentarmos. e sim tomarmos atitudes perante as mudanças inevitáveis que nos aguardam, de forma mais acentuada a partir de 2019. Aqueles que assistiram à palestra Transição Planetária, as Verdades Escondidas, entenderam que a Terra está passando pelo seu momento cíclico. Não temos mais como acreditar que não estão nos matando, aos poucos e de muitas maneiras diferentes. Temos que nos unir o mais urgente possível, para nos prepararmos para o nosso futuro. Vamos espalhar essas informações para o máximo possível de pessoas. Quer mais provas? Afinal, você tem olhado para o céu?
Quer mais verdades escondidas? Facebook, Transição Planetária, as Verdades Escondidas. Juntem-se a nós.